Please explain how you ended up linking up with Coxsone and singing with the Groundings at such a young age.
Yeah, well, the whole Studio One thing started with Ernest Wilson, Peter Austin, who were already members of the Clarendonians. They had gone to Kingston and had made it big time with some bad tunes. Shooby Dooby, Rude Boy Ghana Jail, You Can't Be Happy, What a Bam Bam. So it was excitement in our community to have brothers from our hometown doing well in Kingston. It was like a parish finals kind of thing back then in the days, you know, where whatever parish an artist came from and was doing well, that parish would be rooting for the artist. So Clarendonians had great rooting from Clarendon and across the country, basically, but because they were Clarendonians, you know, all Clarendon root for the Clarendonians. And so my mom, her name is Miss Steining, God bless her soul, and Ernest's mom, her name is Miss Etlin. And she worked at Veer Technical High School, which is one of our prominent high schools in outer Clarendon. And she got paid every other Thursday. My mom is a housewife. She's a kindergarten teacher. She taught most of my friends and all the kids in the community that end up going to high school and college. She pretty much taught them as a teacher. And when Miss Etlin reached out to her and told her that Ernest and Peter was going to Kingston next week, and they were not leaving Freddie. Because by this time, I used to go to Ernest's house to watch them rehearse, because we both live minutes from each other. So, you know, while being there, because Ernest and I, we used to sing at East Primary School. Every Thursday, there was a acoustic piano, and Ernest used to bang away on the piano, and we sing. So by this time, people kind of realized that Steiner's son, look at Freddie, and Ernest, them can sing every Thursday at school, and vibes start going around my community. So I made up a little song called Roll Dumpling Roll. If you want to know dumpling sweet, dip it in a coconut oil. Because dumpling is kind of a staple for us in that community, you know. In Hayes, Clarendon, where we're from, there's no farming community per se. It's all about sugarcane and that kind of thing. And my stepfather worked in the sugarcane industry, and most people there work in the sugarcane industry. Where I was born, however, in Upper Clarendon is where they farm real food. But we had moved from Upper Clarendon since I was very young.
Can I ask you something? Sorry to cut the argument. Hearing that your mother was a teacher and your stepfather was a worker.
He worked in the sugarcane industry.
Do you think that influenced your work ethic in your life?
Oh yeah, most certainly. Because I had to watch my stepfather get up at 4 a.m. every morning. My mind in the kitchen, a fried dumpling, and I prepared food for him to carry. You know, we had back then there was a 3-tier, what we call it's like a thermos, you would call it, but it has 3 compartments. So one would have the food, one would have the fish or the salt fish, and the other one would have the vegetable. And so yeah, that's how we grew up. And I just went there with Ernest and Peter and watched them rehearsing until eventually I start dabbling and start try hold the harmony and stuff. And usually, you know, as a youth, if you spoil up people's stuff, they're going to really blast you, you know. But that was the case. So apparently, I was doing okay. And so it went on and on until it was confirmed that we were leaving Sunday. And that Sunday morning, the bus terminus is a bus called Clarendon Comet. I remember that very clearly. And the bus terminus was about 2 miles from where we live. So like 5 a.m. in the morning when the driver blow that horn, it is to remind the community that the bus is ready to go. So whoever was going to Maypen or Spanish Town or wherever else, you would know that it's time to go to the main road to catch that bus. So my sister and mom, they made a thermos of tea for me. And my mom put some newspaper in my chest. At the time, I never knew what that was for. I later learned that, what's it called? When you travel long distances as a child, you usually get motion sickness. And I found out later that the newspaper was to avoid you from getting that motion sickness. And my sister gave me a nutmeg, and I kept it in my mouth as well. So that was part of controlling the motion sickness. And then I got my change and stuff to buy ice cream and peanut and all the things that little 7-year-old would want on his way to Kingston. But at that time, going to Kingston was like going to New York. You know, when you leave in the country, you go into Kingston, it's a big thing. Because when people was going away to foreign countries in the early days, people used to go to the airport and literally cry. You know, when you're waving people goodbye, it's a bag of crying and all of that stuff. I mean, you miss your loved one and you're not sure when you're going to see them again kind of thing. But, you know, going to Kingston was the same feeling. And I never knew what I was doing at the time. I couldn't, at 7 years old, I don't think I could have known what I was doing or getting into. But Ernest and Peter was my guide. Because when I boarded the bus, it was just coming from the terminal. So I had options in terms of seating. And when you're traveling long distances, you want a window seat. Because as a kid, you want to see everything that you could possibly see. When we got to the main square in Hayes, Ernest and Peter boarded right there. And Ernest's mom, Miss Etlin, she came with them. And the last instruction was, Ernest, when you see the cemetery, because we never understood cemetery at the time. We just said cemetery, country talk. And she said, when you see the cemetery, you're downtown. I asked the driver to put you up on a Patipon bus, which was a Jolly Joseph bus, but there was a particular one, a number 13 bus that was shorter, and they call it Patipon bus for some reason. But that's the bus that would go to Brentford Road. And those were the instructions she laid out, and her final word was, Ernest, whatever you do, take care of Tiny son. My mom is Miss Tiny. And she said, Ernest, whatever you do, take care of Miss Tiny son, because we were going to a place called Kingston. And during those days in Kingston, there was gangster lifestyle, but it wasn't anything near what it is today. Yeah, rude boy. It's spangle and, you know, man button up them shirt neck, and Gregory Isaac still had that style, open him shirt front and, you know, Clark's boot, and it was that kind of thing. Ratchet knife at the time. It wasn't about guns so much. It was ratchet knife. You know, everybody had their knives and Clark's boot and arrow shirt, and you speng up the neck, and you have your cap with a little strap around it and that kind of stuff. So yeah, we went into Kingston at I would say a volatile time in 1963, but it was cool and calm.
Politics never raised up.
No, but well, politics was on, but it wasn't anything like it is today. I mean, totally far different. So yes, the bus driver left us at the corner of Elgin Road and Brentford Road, which was about a block walk to the studio, because we could see the signs, Jamaica Recording Studio. So when we got off the bus and was walking up to the studio, I mean, for me, everything was strange. For Ernest and Peter, they already knew what was going on.
At a young age, when did you realize people's response to your singing and preparation treatment when you could sing?
It was while going to Hayes Primary School, when Ernest and I would jam every Thursday, because that's where the whole singing vibe started from. But people in my community got whiff of it, that tiny little boy can sing. So that's when I made up a little song called Roll Dumpling Roll. If you want to know dumpling, sweet, dip it in a coconut oil. So people in my community used to ask me to sing that song, and I would get 3p, which was 3p at the time, or a penny and a half, which we call quatty, or penny halfpenny, something like that, 2p, whatever it was. But if you had a pound, one shilling at the time, it was considered money boy, because a shilling was a lot of money back then. So to get 3p or 3p was big deal. And I was getting 3p and 2p. And so going to school, with my friend, them we could have extra bull and extra sky juice and all of that, because we had a little extra money. And that could keep us, you know. But then when we got to Brentford Road, was where it all started. Looking back now, it would be like going to your university, and this is your first day in college. So now you meet all these professors who were the Scatterlights, with Jackie Mittoo and all those great musicians, and you were seeing all the big artists you were listening to on radio. They were there, and you're like in this dream world.
So how did they, first of all, what did Coxsone say when Ernest brought you as a little kid?
Well, before even Mr. Dodd met me, the musicians had met me first. Because when I went there was this long queue. And there were people who came in from country, some overnight, some early morning for audition. And at the time, it was BB Seaton from a group called the Gay Lads.
He was dealing with the auditions at the time.
Yes, he and Bob Andy and another brother called Tony Gregory. They were the ones doing the auditions every Sunday. Not on the same day I came, but like every Sunday it would be one of them doing the auditions. And you know, people would come in from country with banjos or anything they could find, a guitar, 3 strings, 2 string, whatever, but they were strumming their stuff. You know, they came there to show what they had and what they had to offer. Some got turned down, some was told to come back 3 months' time, some was told to come back 2 weeks' time. The ones that passed, you know, they would send them to wait over there and that kind of stuff. And if you were told to come back 2 weeks' time, you can rest assured that Sunday morning, 2 weeks later, those persons would be first in line. Determination, they never gave up, never gave up. And that's something I respected with Mr. Dodd, because he gave a lot of people opportunity, you know.
All right. You have to get, it seemed like you have to get through a couple people because you got to get through the first at the time.
So when Ernest and Peter, when we came there, it was all excitement because everybody knew Ernest and Peter. They were stars now. Them have all the big tunes mashing up the place. So it was all excitement. And Ernest would say, little brother, I'm going to say, yeah man, look at Freddie, him can't sing, you know. Hey guys, sing make them here. So every opportunity me have to sing Roll Dumpling Roll. But the song I bust up the place and everybody excited and this youth here, wow, him can't sing. Because Roll Dumpling Roll was never recorded by me, but I recorded it with my son Stephen and Tiger when Tiger was ill, because when Tiger got ill, he was staying at my house for a year. We were trying to help him recover. So, you know, it was just exciting. Every time I bust the tune, everybody dead with laugh and them amazed by this little kid doing what he did. So immediately inside the studio, no child was allowed in any studio, even until today. So I got the opportunity to be in the studio with all those great musicians. My aim was to stay quiet and learn everything I could. So when they took a break, like lunch break, there was a shop across the street from the studio. Everybody would link me, like a Freddie, go tell auntie, send a bun and a cheese and a beer and take a drinks for yourself too. And I would run across the street, get that done, come back fast. So I became like that little gopher for them, and everybody really loved me like that, you know. Man would give me some money and say, look Freddie, go buy a pack of cigarettes for me and a beer and take the change for yourself. Boom, I'm back in minutes. So everybody kind of liked that, you know, that I was able to do that for them. And so it became that situation. Everybody loved me. So I had the chance to be in the studio during recording. But I was always very quiet because I wanted to learn everything that was happening. And it went on and on until it was my time to actually record. In 63,
How long did that period take from you going there to record?
a couple of months, I'd say about 4 months.
So where were you staying?
I was living with Ernest Wilson's aunt, in a place called McGregor Gully in Rollington town. 4th Avenue, McGregor Gully, 3rd house going down 4th Avenue. And that area is called McGregor Gully. And me name McGregor, I don't even know how it works.
So is that like embarrassing?
It is. It was one of the tough neighborhoods back then.
As a country youth, then I know you kind of guarded around the artist, but how was that transition from coming to?
The transition it wasn't bad for me because then I never had a chance to run around with other kids to try and do stupid things. I was there with Ernest and Peter, so my whole goal and focus was studio and the music. That's what I came for. And Ernest wasn't the kind of person who was involved in anything outside of music either, so that was great for me. Our life was just getting to the studio every day, spend our day, get back home in the evening. Until one day Mr. Dodd asked Ernest, where was I staying? And Ernest explained to him where I was. And he said to Ernest, when you come in Monday, bring his stuff.
That's how you ended up with Mr. Dodd?
That's how I ended up living at Mr. Dodd's house.
Were you interacting with Mr. Dodd a lot prior to that?
Yeah, because remember now I was in the studio. I was in the studio, so Mr. Dodd seen me every day. And I guess he was checking me out and thinking to himself, you know, this little kid is talented, you know. Because people could go back and listen to a lot of my younger songs on YouTube. If you go on YouTube and you type in Little Freddie, you'll see a bunch of songs with me, probably about 8, 9, thereabout. And listening back to them myself, I am amazed too. Like, yo, this youth here was talented from a baby, man. Which is really true still. I'm listening back to the stuff. So I think Mr. Dodd saw that in me when he asked Ernest to bring my stuff. And I ended up living at Mr. Dodd's house in Pembroke. And back then, Pembroke was an upscale neighborhood. It was the first time I was seeing like living room couches and carpet runner and proper dining table, because where we come from in the country is what we call Wackland Dab house, you know, where you use mud and stuff, and you use sticks to create the frame, and you use mud and stuff and dab that. Our kitchen was dirt. 3 big stone, the pot on there. My mom had a string that she put over the stove, so that's how I learned about smoked food from early, because she would hang stuff up there and it got smoked, and we used to pop off pieces of it and thief that and eat and run off and stuff. But yeah, and we used to use the coconut bow, the bow of the coconut. That's where the coconut actually bear. When you take them off, there's a bow, looks like a broom sort of, and that's what we used to sweep. You know what I'm saying? Or we go cut a bunch of what we call what we call that thing? I don't remember, but it's a bush. We cut them by the bungle and we use that to sweep. Broomweed, we call it. Broomweed, yeah. So going to Kingston and living with Mr. Dodd was a different thing for me. Because like I say, it's the first time I start to experience a different life in terms of proper living, what I would consider proper living. And I lived there with Mr. Dodd, 3 daughters, Sandra, Carol, Tanya, and his son, his wife, Mrs. Dodd, who became a mother at one point. Because Mrs. Dodd is the woman who taught me table manners, how to use knife and fork, and you know, don't keep your elbows on the table, all of that kind of stuff. She taught me those things. And Mr. Dodd was truly a father to me then. So I lived with them for quite a while until he ended up boarding me out with a Christian family and enrolled myself and Ernest in a school called St. Andrew Junior High on Agley Park Road, right next to Liquid Food Soda Factory. Back then, and we went to that school for about 2 years. After a while, after 2 years, things started to fade out, and I guess the music took the better of us, and we ended up back at the studio every day, that kind of thing. Because to me, well, when I grew up and started to understand very well what was happening, this music thing is no joke. And to become one and to be successful, you have to pay attention to it. You can never have a second job and consider yourself a real musician or artist. I realize it's something that you have to dedicate your full and complete time doing. So we used to just every day hang at the studio. I can tell you what Mr. Dodd, the license plate on his Buick, he had a grey Buick back then, and the license plate number was AE231. That's how much I know that car. That's how much I waited on that car. I'm traveling that car every single day. So, you know, we became close, and I learned to respect Mr. Dodd so much. What year was this around? 63, 64, and onwards.
Why was Rocksteady so short in your opinion?
Because, all right, when you listen to most of my songs, my childhood songs, they were ska. That was towards the ending of ska when I started. So if I correlate the entire event to you, when I started out in ska, Mr. Dodd boarded us out, and we started to go to St. Andrew Junior High School. Ernest and myself, we missed out on that Rocksteady era, because our songs in ska was the ending of ska. When you listen to those songs, if you understand the music, you would understand that ska was going out. It was the ending of ska going into Rocksteady. Now with schooling, we missed out pretty much on that Rocksteady era, which didn't last for long. I think that probably lasted for about, 3 years? Between 3 to 5 years kind of thing.
Why was Rocksteady so great but so short?
Yeah, because the musicians were I think they were kind of tired of the up-tempo ska, because it was really fast. And if you go back to some early videos, you'd see how people were dancing to those stuff. But then as time started to transition, the musicians wanted to slow it down a bit. And so they decided, I think it was Lynn Tate, who was actually, I think, a Trinidadian guitarist working in Jamaica, along with Phil Callender. May his soul rest in peace. He just got buried this past Saturday. He was one of the drummers at Studio One, but he came from Christ, I'll tell you in a minute, Panama. So he came to Jamaica with a different groove as a drummer. He played like what we call bossa nova. So if you listen back to some of those Studio One tracks that he played on, some early track, you would hear the bossa nova drum pattern like cough, 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 cough. That was Phil Callender. He came with that bossa nova groove, while Jackie Mittoo and the bass player pumped the other things inside of it. And that's how Studio One became great, because they were musicians from different Caribbean islands who came together and made that sound what it was.
All right. What is your opinion on Jackie?
It's one of the greatest we've ever had in Jamaica. He still leads the pack, if you ask me. There are some young, brilliant keyboard players now who have gone immensely great. I mean, I can name so many of them, great people. But I think Jackie Mittoo still stands out because of his originality and his creativity and his wisdom and knowledge and the blessing that he had for music. Jackie Mittoo arranged 90%, I would say, of the songs that was recorded at Studio One.
We have to clear that up now. I spoke to numerous people, right? I've been hearing different stories. Some musicians said that they created the keys. Others told me that Jackie Mittoo composed everything and told people what to play.
Yeah, Jackie Mittoo was the one who told people what to play. He's the man. He's the genius behind everything. I tell you who else played a very important role at Studio One. Leroy Sibbles, that bass player, because he did a lot of work with Jackie himself. And so Jackie loved him as a bass player. So when Jackie would work out the songs and find that Leroy would just come up with a wicked bass line and Jackie would just nod to it and say, yeah. And the rest is history, magic. You know, but Jackie was really instrumental in the creativity of most of the songs, even the cover songs that Mr. Dodd would give him to work on. Weeping Willow, you name it, Mosa Altanellis, some Delroy Wilson as we go way back. Because Mr. Dodd used to bring records from abroad and give them to Jackie to listen to. Jackie would now listen to these songs and totally change everything.
Fire, that's what I can't put my mind on. How were they able to rearrange? That's the thing, it's not really a cover, it's like a rearrangement. How do you
It's a rearrangement, but you see, if you have it like that, that's what's going to happen. Jackie could listen to a song and Rain from the Skies. And what made the whole thing so great at the time was the fact that all the musicians working there, Scatterlight, they were coming from the greatest music school we had in Jamaica, which was the Alpha School of Music. So I'd say nearly all the musicians could read music. So when you walk into the studio, you could tell who were the wind players, the horn players. They always have a pencil in their ear and them lip kind of have that hand lip. You know what a hand lip look like. So you could easily tell. And that was a greatness. When Jackie arranged a piece, they would then put themselves into it, create that next arrangement to the song. That's why the hand lines and most of Studio One songs were so crucial, because they were all excellent people arranging and playing that. Now the magic about all of this is we used to record on 2 tracks. So when you walk into the studio and Jackie says, all right, mommy, hear the song, and you play the song, you sing the song for Jackie. Now the next thing is Jackie going to put an arrangement to it, and I'm going to tell the other musicians what to play. Once they rehearse it a couple times and it's fine, then he said to the engineer, yeah, you ready? The engineer would say, yeah man, we're ready, I have a good balance. Take 1. So when he pressed that red light, we're ready, no mistakes. It's not like the band is going to record their track first and then we're going to come and record. No, everything, we're all going down at once. So once I rehearse my part and me and Ernest rehearse, there's no missing. Because if we make a mistake, the entire band have to stop and we start over. So that's a part of the training that we got from early, not to make mistakes. So once the drummer count off and the track start, the intent in everyone's head is to get the song right to the very end. So when we do it once and everything is correct, Mr. Dodd would normally say, all right, Jackson, I like that one. Let's take another cut. And we take another cut. Sometimes the second cut varies a little from the original one, but not mistakenly. It's still fine. And he would sometimes say, all right, I like that one too. Let's try a last cut. And so we do a third. take. So sometimes if you notice, you'll hear some songs at Studio One where they're similar, but have minor or minute changes to them. It's just the difference with each track that we do.
What jobs did you have at Studio?
My job there was to sing. Mr. Dad always, we have a tape recorder that Mrs. Dad kept in the office. And when Mr. Dad have certain songs he want me to record, he must say, all right, Jackson, I go Spanish Town today. ND, he call his wife ND, Nama Dad is her name. Him say, all right, check ND, she have the tape machine, and just listen to these songs till I come back. When we come back, we're going to try and record them. So that was my daily thing. When there was no session or anything, he would send us around to the pressing plant, where Earl from the Eptones, Earl Morgan, was one of the key persons responsible for pressing records. He was very good at pressing LPs. Horsemouth, the drummer, he was instrumental in pressing 45s. And so Mr. Dad used to send me around there to go and hang with them to learn how to press the records too. So, till I eventually learned it and started to press some records too. But my main thing was to pack the records when they were pressed. You put them on a spingle and they come in 25s because that's how many records hold in a box at the time, 25 45s. So that was kind of my thing. And I just dabble around with it. It was so basically kill time when there was no session. And that was my role there for a while.
All right. You told me about Dodd having a distribution deal with Barry Gorday. Can you speak about that, please?
Yeah, Motown was looking, Mr. Gorday was looking for someone in Jamaica to distribute his record. I think with the consciousness of himself as a black man and the whole struggle during those early years, he was looking for someone like himself. And he reached out to Mr. Dodd and gave him the option to distribute his catalog. And he used to send records to Mr. Dodd as well from some smaller labels, which was probably run by Motown, like T-Neck and some labels out of Jersey and some stuff. So Mr. Dodd would regularly get those records and would listen to them and pick some out and give them to Jackie and say, Jackie, I think we can work with these songs. Listen to them and see. So that's how Jackie was instrumental in rearranging stuff, because he had the material to listen to. So Mr. Dodd started to distribute, but in music politics, there was a lot going on at the time. So there were some other record companies who felt intimidated by Mr. Dodd getting such deal. And they worked their way and fought him out of it. But then they got the deal, and they themselves didn't do any better. They did far worse than Mr. Dodd.
How did they end up getting the deal?
Well, I guess they lied on Mr. Dodd, that Mr. Dodd was pressing records and selling them illegally, which wasn't true. They were the ones doing that. They were the ones pressing the records on white label and selling them. But Mr. Gorday did eventually find out and took his catalog from them. So that was at the time now when everybody started to eye New York, the New York market. And people started to move into New York, set up base like VP, Joe Gibbs. Dynamics was already shipping stuff there. And I think Mr. Dodd was the last one to actually move out and try to set up his stuff in Brooklyn. But I think the struggle that Mr. Dodd faced was the general struggle that black people face. When Mr. Dodd had a song that could sell 500,000 copies, he wouldn't be able to press 500,000 copies. He lucky if he could press 100 copies, because he didn't control the pressing plants at the time. There's a thing called pellets that you use to press the vinyl. It's a black tarry looking stuff, and when you put them in the heater, it heats them up, and then you have this thing like you'd fill a ice cream cone and swirl around. That's how you do it. You press this thing and it comes out, and you break it off and you put it on the record, and you push it under the steamer, bring down the levers, close that, give it a couple seconds, release it, and the record is there, round record. We put it on another machine that cut the edges, and so we take it and we look at it to make sure it's correct, and we put it on a spingle. And that's how you can tell how many records you pressed in a day. So Mr. Dodd had real struggles, and a lot of people say bad things about him, but I don't think a lot of people who say bad things about him understood the struggles that Mr. Dodd went through. Because to have a studio that you did rent out to people, but you was able to do session from Monday to Monday almost every day, that's a big task. And how would you find that kind of money to accomplish that kind of task, really? But what Mr. Dad would do is use one to juggle the other, so that everybody would have an opportunity. And one thing I can tell you, every person who worked at Studio One, there's no mistaking, every single week, every person got paid. Mr. Dad would sit in the office with brown envelopes and some white receipts, and she would open the door and Miss Enid would come out, a lady named Enid from the group, Keith and Enid. She worked with Mr. Dad up until he passed. She would just come out and shout, Bagger. And you see Bagger walk at the bass player, walk into the office, go sign him receipt, get his envelope, come back out smiling. Pablo, same thing, you know, so everybody would sit there and wait, hoping to hear your name next. And if you don't hear your name, you know it's not pretty that Friday evening there, you know. So people would probably wait until Mr. Dad come and still ask him for a thing. And he was always gracious. He helped, we could help. That much I know.
You're in that young artist category, right? It seemed like it don't work out in life for young artists. Like, I don't know if it's too much that you missed a childhood. How were you able to still get through the young artist thing and continue with your life?
I don't know if I had a life outside of just wanting to record some songs and hear my voice on the radio. Because I never went into it with the intention of making money. I didn't know anything about money and business of music. That wasn't my thing. We were just excited to hear Ernest and Peter mash up the place. I come from Clarendon. And I am dear friends. And them say I can sing. And them bring me come to town. So I wanted to sing too. And I can hear myself on radio. The struggle wasn't easy, but that was my focus. I never done anything because my main mission leaving country was to help my mother. Because my mother have 8 children, 4 boys, 4 girls. I'm the youngest. And I didn't see how she was going to work out, taking care of everybody. So I wanted to do something to try and help her. And that was my motivation until this day. It still was my motivation. And I think I accomplished that because my mom lived with me before she passed. And that's the main thing I wanted, to give her a comfortable life before she passed. And I think I achieved that. And my stepfather also.
Cool. Moving forward now. When did you decide to join 12 Tribe of Israel? Like, what influenced you to join?
It was my growing up. I think when I saw 12 Tribe, I saw myself. The way I grew up, my thinking, the people I want to be around. Because yes, at a point, you know, nice young kid, you start to have afro and wear bell-foot pants, and you can easily get involved with a different society of people now, because we're there on the bandstand every night now and we're getting some popularity. But in my heart, I was more for the struggle and the grassroots people that I am a part of. And I never lose that focus, because I remember where I was coming from. Like I explained to you, we had dirt floor, no tile, no nothing. So it's kind of hard to erase or to forget those things, because that's where you're coming from, and you have to remember that. And while you move up in life, you still have to remember where you were and where you are today and where you really want to go. So that was my groundation. And when I met 12 Tribe, they were saying everything that I wanted to hear about Africa's imperial majesty, repatriation, and all of that. So I got sucked into that real time. Started to learn how to read my Bible 1 chapter a day. That was introduced to me by 12 Tribes of Israel. That to read the Bible 1 chapter a day, you will get the best understanding ever. Because some people read the Bible, but just race through it like some regular novel. And to me, to get the full and true understanding is to take it in strides. So we were taught to read our Bible 1 chapter a day, from Genesis 1 to Revelation 22. 3 years, 2 months, and 4 days it took me, noting the Bible every day, every chapter. And when I first read my Bible from a King James version, I learned some stuff, but nothing compared to what's there for me to learn. So I had to go over it a second time with another King James Version Bible. And I read through, and as you're going through it, you start to understand some things that you read before, and you start to put things together. And you say, oh, okay, this is what that was. But then my third time, I wanted to do something different. So I was introduced to a Bible called the Schofield Reference Bible. And the Schofield is really like a movie. it has references, and it has footnotes at the bottom. So when you read something that you didn't understand, like for example, I was reading through and I'm reading Ezekiel was in the land of Magog, or some people pronounce it Magog. I wanted to know what was Magog. So reading my original King James Version, it didn't give reference or footnotes. So you don't understand. You just, the word Magog is there, but what is Magog? So with the Scofield Reference Bible, like C would send you to a footnote down the bottom and it would explain that Magog was the land of Russia in whatever year that was. And that's where Ezekiel was when he prophesied and said, lo and behold, I saw an iron bird, which to me is a plane. Him see the bird that fly and say, one day, man going to make something that can carry people, will fly like a bird, And lo and behold, we come see iron bird today, which is a plane. So just stuff like that. And it explained other things that I didn't understand reading from the original versions. The Scofield reference really explained a lot and broke it down easily like a movie. And that's where I started to get the ultra knowledge of what I was reading. And then, and that was my third time. So now I start to put what I read in context with world affairs and what was happening in front of me. And that's how I was able to navigate through it. And looking at what is happening, even now the war in Russia, with Russia and the Ukraine. I understand it because I read my book and saw what led to this conflict. So it's wisdom in His Majesty say, we need to hope you have one of the oldest versions of the Bible, but however old the version may be, and in whatever language it might be written, the word remain one and the same. It transcends all boundaries of empires and all conception of race. It is eternal.
All right, 2 questions. First, when you started the locks, what was the response from the thing?
People used to, well, them never really beat me too hard, but people used to show disappointment. Like a nice looking guy like you, and look how you're afro nice and everything, and then all of a look what you're doing to yourself, that kind of thing. And it bothered me, because I'm like, what am I doing to myself? I'm not doing nothing to myself. I don't feel for cool me here anymore. What am I doing to myself? And
what was your mother's response?
No, my mother never had anything to do with it. From the time I came to Kingston, my mother and my stepfather, and there was no opposition. I guess they just wished me well, and my mom knew the kind of person I was too, and she was just hoping that I wouldn't get myself involved in badness going to Kingston. But that was my thought process. My thought process was to become successful so I could help my family. So that was my focus. But people used to show disappointment and disapproval in ways that bothered me. Like, look at this nice guy, and so I said to myself, so because I grow my hair, I'm not nice anymore, those realities start to set into me. And that made me become more vigilant in wanting to grow my hair, because I knew I was doing something right and legal. Why would you have opposition? Why would you not like me anymore because I choose to grow my hair? It's me, it's the same kid, where you say I have a nice voice and can sing. So this is me. So I'm going to struggle through them era there and understand the thing and just be myself and fight the fight and go through. Now it's different. When I was signed to Polydor, I'm going to take my picture of them and I'm a nice, pretty suit and thing. Enough old people in Jamaica, I could credit myself and Dennis Brown for some things there. Whereas a lot of people in Jamaica never took to Bob Marley because I'm a Rasta, smoke weed and all of that. Weed which is now legal. The amount of people that smoke weed now, ridiculous. But them used to bash us for smoking weed, yeah? It was when Dennis Brown and myself started to go there and, we perform all over the place and people say we're dressed wonderful in our suit and clean and, you have some old people that say, boy, I don't really like Rasta, but I love him. I love the way he carry himself. But we understood it because we are children of His Imperial Majesty and we are represent. Yeah, I represent my father. When we look at my father, nobody wears suit like him. Nobody fit in clothes like the king. Nobody wear the most quality material than the king. So that was part of my motivation. I go and make my light shine so you can see my good work and glorify my father when me I praise. You disappointed in me growing my hair? I go and show you why me I do it. So we break those barriers down, you know, and bring the fact to people that, yeah, man, it's us, not different. So we look clean and we represent the country and we represent the music. So people just become accustomed to that, and then the love for us start to grow, and we fight our way through until we are where we are.
Studio reasons, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know you have 12 Tribe, you have Naya Bing, you have Bible, you have no Bible. Tell me about some of the reasons you experienced in regards to that.
Over the many years, there has been conflict in terms of the different houses. Minor conflicts, I would say. But we learn to overcome those things because His Imperial Majesty asks us, not 12 Tribe, or Bingi, or Bobo, or after that, asks us, those of us who know and love Him, to organize and centralize and to fulfill the role of repatriating ourselves to the land that He gave us in Ethiopia. So we used to pay 25 cents a week as 12 Tribe members, and those are the funds that we managed to put together and send a number of persons to Ethiopia. And I personally have gone to Ethiopia myself and witnessed with my own eyes the community that we've sent there. And it's a wonderful thing. We could have done more, should have done more, and I wish we did more, but the fact is that we did what we could, and we fulfilled our role in terms of repatriating people. And it's still open and people are still going. People are doing so on their own today as well. But we started that mission because that's one of the things that His Majesty had asked us to do.
I wanted to ask, 12 Tribes seem like a very strong organization.
Yes.
Everything has its faults, but a lot of stuff. When did the decline take place?
I think the decline came when, I think the leader of the organization started to lose focus. Like in most things in life and most organizations, you build to a level where the world is saying, yes, this is it. And then for some reason, sometimes people think, well, I am the person, I did this. And so, you know, people start to lose focus and start move on to other things. And I experienced a lot of things, some of which I don't think I wish to speak publicly on just now, because I write my book, My Life and Reggae's History, and some of these things I'm reserving for my book. But that's a really important question. I think sometimes when we start to become progressive, we start to lose focus. And I saw that in the organization which I'm a part of. And the focus started to shift to other things where it should be more focused on the core things that we had set out for. And some of the things is like, to be honest, womanizing, and, you know, we start to see infightings and all of that kind of stuff. And it started to push people away, and people start to become resentful, and a bunch of other stuff happened, and then it just disintegrated into what it became. But the organization is still strong. It's still functioning worldwide, and we have many brothers and sisters who understand the work, and we still stay strong together and still try to do what we can do based on our commitment to His Imperial Majesty and the African diaspora and our family.
How did your relationship start with Dennis?
Dennis.
How did that start? How did your relationship
Well, let me tell you, Dennis Brown is our Michael Jackson of the Caribbean. From Dennis, a little youth, Dennis rise up as a superstar. So he had the command and the respect of everyone. But he wasn't selfish, he wasn't bossy or nothing, he was humble. And, you know, it was after the session he was doing, because he recorded some songs that day, and he had about 2 more sessions. And so we were outside now, and we meet and we start talking, and it was Dennis, myself, and Delroy Wilson, because we were the younger people there who could have related to each other. The musicians were already, you know, older, grown people and stuff. So we all a vibe, and they must say, yeah, man, listen to you, and you can sing, man, and, you know, he might encourage me, and we had show him how much we admire him, and it was a good vibe. And then he departed, and we start running to each other more as the years go on, and we maintained that friendship. But it wasn't until I became a member of the 12 Tribes of Israel organization. And some friends of mine in New York who was close to Dennis as well, who were members, started to bring Dennis around the organization. And our band became more solid. I recognize him as Joseph. I recognize myself as a Levi. And we have that brotherly love and understanding, and we read a book to, and, you know, the knowledge. So we start to bond together seriously.
was the bonding over
Yeah, everything. Firstly, our band was about the organization that we've all become a part of, because that was very important to us. In our heart and soul, that's where our heart is. And it's a people's thing. And we are part of the people. And we figure our role lies here. And so we start grow through that, and because we became members, you know, the band started to become more tighter, and we keep communicating with each other always. And I remember at one point, Dennis started to say to me, you know, he must say, boy, priest. And he called me priest, you know, because the Levites are the priests, function the priestly order. And I say, priest, brother. I say, yeah, make some nice tune, no, brother. But it's a struggle, yeah? It's a real struggle, you know. But anytime you find a song with a woman them love my brother, it over. And like him lick me in my head with something. And I say, okay, that's right there. Okay. So I'm start search for the song, and you know, I make some song because I always remember what him said to me. And I search for the song, and I went to the studio. Clevie from Celia and Clevie called me one day, that Scorpio studio, and said, yo, where you there? I said, I'm there, man. I said, come link me down at Scorpio. I have a tune there. Are you listening? I drive down to Scorpio, then put on the track, man, listen to the track. And I say, yeah. Take out my pen, start write the song. That song became so many people want to see me stop loving you.
Just like that.
And when that song came out, madam, also one morning, it was early for me, early. It was late in the UK, and Dennis was in England. And my phone ring, and I answer the phone, hello? And she say, preach, my brother. You find it, my brother. And me I try to understand. I say, what is Deb? And I say, yeah, man. I say, you find it, my brother. And him start singing a song. So many people wanna see me. And he say, you find it, preach. And that me I tell you about. Anytime you make them sing here, nothing can stop it for the whole of the woman, them love it, my brother. And the way my show, the happiness way my show for me, it's like treat me out. Come here, say, they mean say somebody's so happy for me, you know, and that was really genuine, and we maintained that vibe and relationship until he died. When Dennis passed, Dennis and I was so close. Everybody associate me and Dennis. I was the one who was instrumental in getting Dennis Brown buried at Heroes Park, because I knew what the situation was, and myself and a friend Lego. And we took it on ourselves because we think Dennis should have gotten a state funeral, except state funeral is reserved for heads of state. But I was able to call former Prime Minister, Mr. P.J. Patterson, when the morning Dennis passed, and explain to him what had happened. And I tell him, Sir, Dennis deserves a real government-style funeral. And I said, we can't do a state funeral, but we can do a government-assisted funeral. Because it's reserved for heads of states. That's why it's called state funeral. I didn't know either. Mr. Patterson educated me on that. So him said, what we can do though is a government-assisted funeral. So I'm going to ask you to put a committee together, and I'm going to appoint someone from the government, Mr. Arnold Bertram, to work with you and get it done. We will assist. And that's our former committee, Tammy Cowan, Miss Babsy Grange, who is our Minister of Culture now, Lego, and a number of other persons. We got it together. And I was doing an interview on the radio and talking to the people, and someone had asked where the funeral would be. And I suggested that Dennis should be buried at Heroes Park. And Dennis come from downtown, right across from Heroes Park pretty much. And Dennis is a downtown person. There's a person who buried over Heroes Park named Capo. And he was some kind of spiritual leader in Jamaica. And so I tell them, say, if Capo bury at Heroes Park, then Dennis Brown deserves to bury over there. And the people downtown agree with me and gave 1,000% support. And because of that vibe, I think the government couldn't shy away from it. So they allowed us to bury Dennis at Heroes Park.
All right, I want to jump back. Dennis Brown's career is going on. How did you become the opening? Because we growing up as a kid, I just remember you opening for Dennis Brown.
Because Dennis was a star. And we weren't too proud to be opening for my brother who's a star. As a matter of fact, if you listen back to a lot of Dennis Brown shows, he's always done one of my songs. If my brother was here, he would do this song for years and years. And if you notice, Gregory would do the same. Because they understood that I was making some crucial songs that wasn't getting there. So they took it on themselves to start help promoting me by being on shows, doing my songs as well. So that's something that the general public might not have understood, but that was the reason for that, and it worked.
Where did you guys learn?
Yeah, there wasn't a problem opening for anybody who didn't want to open or see themselves bigger than opening for Dennis Brown would be a loser, because Dennis Brown was the man, still is the man.
All right. Dennis Brown is everybody I've spoken to speaks about Dennis Brown.
Mm-hmm.
Why, in your opinion, why was Dennis Brown so great?
Because he was, all right, why was he so great? Is the talent that Jah gave him. That's the reason he became so great. The second thing about Dennis Brown, you don't find a nicer person than Dennis Emmanuel Brown as a human being. In fact, I think Dennis Brown gave away even his life to the public, because Dennis is this kind of person who he'll give you everything he has and just tell himself he'll make it back today. And that's how he lived his life. He was for the people totally and entirely. Even when Dennis didn't have it, he would find a way to try and get it just so you can have it if you did ask for it. And he believed that where he came from, he had a responsibility to help people in his community. So, and I understand that because I go through the same thing. So, but God created Dennis Brown specifically for that reason. And Dennis has done his work, and I know he's safe in the bosom of the Almighty, and so too Gregory. Gregory is one of the nicest person you could ever meet. If you're ever down one day, just spend 10 minutes with Gregory. You're past cloud nine.
I heard Gregory was quite a comedian and a step at the same time.
Hey, listen to me. Listen. You're sitting here, Gregory will make you laugh until you drop on this carpet and roll. That's the kind of person Gregory is. Never a dull moment being around him.
All right, back to Dennis Brown now. I remember we interviewed Lego. He actually broke down crying because he was saying that he was like a people, as you said, he was a people pleaser. Like,
Yeah,
why do you
man.
think that was the case? Why do you think he was like so into like pleasing?
I didn't create that. Jah created that. That's just how he was. When you love people, it's a different thing, you know. When you love people and you're committed to it, you do what you have to do, you know. I learned a lot from Dennis. I learned a lot from even that situation, because it teach me that I have to make sure I secure myself in certain ways. As much as you want to help everyone, you can't help everyone, but you can help those who you can as you go along. That's important. That's an important lesson that I learned from both Dennis and Gregory. Because Gregory is one of the kindest persons you'll know too. He'll give you everything he has. Don't care about it.
All right. In your career, when did it click to say, yo, F this, I have to produce and record my own music?
Well, it's as a result of seeing what Mr. Dodd did, you know, at Studio One, and being there, looking at the situation, looking at what is happening to him, looking at what is happening to the industry. I knew at some point I wanted to have my own studio. And I also recognized, shh, hello? All right, it's okay. Yes, I'm sorry. So I was saying, I'm being at Studio One, looking at Mr. Dodd and looking at the situations he's been through, I recognize that at some point I will have to have my own studio and production. And while recording songs for other people outside of Studio One, I tell myself I am not going to record all my good songs for everybody else except myself. So I want the opportunity to record some songs for me too. That means buying a multi-track tape, booking studio time, paying musicians, and while touring and making alcohol money, I never just take my money and buy jewelry and clothes. You know, I always put aside some for my family and put aside some to buy a 24-track tape. Those were those big tapes. Yeah, so every time I go to foreign and coming back home, I have 1 or 2 tapes because I know what I wanted to achieve. When I made some money, I chose to build a studio.
What song brought the money?
Well, it wasn't so much a song. It was just the catalog that I had at the time. I went to Japan to do Reggae Sunsplash Japan tour. And some people there in Japan, business people, approached me with a deal for distributing my stuff in Japan. And we coined a deal and I made some money. So the first money I made, I just buy black, cement, steel, whatever was required and started to build my studio. Because I knew I needed my studio to fulfill all the work that I would have coming forward. And also too that if my kids loved it, at least we would have it. And that what I've been through from Studio One coming through, I recognize that I will be able to help a lot of other artists stemming from the positions that I've been through. And so when I built my studio, that was a vibe. And it really worked that way for me, because then my son Stephen graduated, took on the studio, and Cartel became superstar, Mavado, Elephant, every artist who has worked with him has become superstars in their own rights. And we never charge these people one dime or a dollar. It was our studio. We don't have security guard. Our gate is always open. But everybody know our style. We're not violent people. We're not into the gun thing. We're not into none of that. So the people who associate themselves with us are people who understand that, and we just show everybody love. And like I said to you, my studio can't benefit me alone. It would make sense. I hardly even use my studio, to be honest. It's everybody else use my studio. I only use my studio when I have projects to do.
Speaking about helping people, right? What did you see in Luciano? Because you produced the album.
Yeah, when I first met Luciano, he was a star. I met a star.
Yeah. So
And I thought,
Luciano and said you gonna, because it was you were
I saw a star. I saw a star.
So tell me what you saw.
I saw a star in Luciano. His voice was so potent, and his mannerism was perfect.
How did you meet Luciano first?
I met Luciano at, how did I meet Luciano? I'm not even exactly sure I met him, but I can tell you that we spent a lot of time at a studio called New Name Studio on Hagley Park Road. Ladies saw Derek Barnett. A lot of folks were there at that studio. We were doing a lot of work at the time, and I'm running to Lucy. And I was recording some songs at the time. I was putting together my Jamaican Classics album. That's how it worked. And then Lucy was at the studio every day, and one day he came to me and said, "Yo, father, I said, boy, I love some of them rhythm where I'm making up." I'm going to say, "Yeah, you interested for sing on some of them?" I'm say, "Yeah, man." So with this program, I set of rhythms, and the first one I gave him was Shake It Up Tonight. Because I recorded that song with the help of Dalton Brown, but I played everything, drum, bass, keyboards. Dalton played the guitar. And I love that track. I'm say, "Lucy, here's that track. So what you can do with this track?" And sure enough, he came up with Shake It Up Tonight. And I wrote a song on the rhythm called Seek and You'll Find. And those two songs became #1 in England. That was Luciano's first #1 record. My song became #1, Lucy's became #1. And those two songs were juggling 1 and 2 for about eight weeks in London. And that's how we met. And Lucy said was interested in recording an album because I had the rhythms. And he showed the interest in recording and the rhythms. So we just gave him his time and allowed him to record. And that's how he completed that album.
All right, continue now with the mannerisms and little aspects you saw.
Oh, until today, Luciano is one of the most respectful and respectable artists I've worked with. He hasn't changed from the time I met him to today. His mannerism is right on point. If Lucia walk in here, he's going to heal everyone with the kind of blessings that you are going to respect. You're going to feel honored. And you don't have to do it, but it's something that when you do it, you lift people's spirit. And sometimes people have bad days and you don't even know. But the way you bless them and greet them, it changes everything too. And I see that in Luciano. And him and I, we have that relationship until today. I just love this kid. And he knows so. What I'm saying to you now, he knows that that's how I feel about him. And so we build that bond, and until today, we maintain it.
All right, now put 2 and 2 together. Listen to this. Because you were at Studio One, because you were at Studio One and you saw them kind of rearrange classics, where did the idea come from to do the reggae classics? Instead of
It was at a time when our music started to get into serious difficulties. It was a time when I recognized that we were starting to lose the essence of our music and culture.
computer time? This one computer
Yeah, yes. And it was about 3/4 way through the computer era. And I thought, whoa, you could easily write a good album and lose it based on what was happening at the time. Because in music, one has to also realize and recognize that there is a thing called timing. If you put out a good album at the wrong time, you're going to face difficulties. Because you're probably putting out this album at a time when a Shaggy, for example, has a tune that is just so bad, you can't go around it. So putting out your record to try and compete, you're going to lose your record to that good record. Maybe Sean Paul have a bad tune at the time. You come with this song. How is this song going to dethrone Sean Paul big tune? You know, Big Ship came out. Yellow Man had a song, I'm Getting Married in the Morning. One heck of a time to go number one past Yellow Man. And we're just juggling at number one, number two kind of thing. So you could put out an album, and especially an original album, that people will have to now become accustomed to. You could easily lose that good project. So I thought to myself, you know something? Why don't I just make some wicked Jamaican songs and just re-record them and put out an album called Jamaican Classics? Because that would save me. I remember just watch the industry and see how the music went pan out within this next year. And so I made the album. And I think the timing was perfect.
How were people responding, first of all, when you recorded in the IABA?
All right. So the first song released from that project was Let Him Try. And that was a slammer. Immediately as the song came out, everybody was, yes! Yeah. And then the magic about it too was that people outside of Jamaica, especially young kids who were into the music big time at that time, they thought these were new songs, new original songs. Japan, for example, it took a long time to get the idea to them that this was a song done by Alton Ellis many years ago, because they thought these were brand new songs by Freddie McGregor. So then they got the gist and started to look up at the Alton, and then everything just started to roll like that. And so that project worked, and then I'm like, wow, it's a good idea. Maybe I should do a volume 2. Well, people started to ask me for a volume 2, and I came with a second volume, and then immediately I Was Born a Winner took off. And you know, it served the same purpose, because these kids did not know that Derek Harry had done the song called I Was Born a Loser, and that the original was done by a group called the Tams many years ago. So I just flipped the script, because I didn't want to be a loser. And I say, you know, say, that's song I need for flip, but this time I'm a winner, not loser. And people just embrace the concept, and it just took off running. And so, you know, I worked with that for a while, and what it actually did was save me doing a new album that, like I said, might have gotten lost in the midst of all that was happening. So yes, that was a good period for me, and then I cooled out a bit and then started to come back with my original albums and stuff.
Story behind Push Come to Shove.
Pardon me?
Story behind Push Come to Shove.
I was in Baltimore. this place, Baltimore. I was working with a record company called Ras Records out of DC at the time, Gary Melfar. And I was going back and forth, Jamaica here, and this time my flight was from Baltimore to Kingston. I had 3.5 hours. And I thought to myself, because I always wanted to write a song about the airport and that kind of stuff. And I say, maybe this is the right opportunity for just relax and write. I always have a window seat. I'm going to set my boarding pass and start to write. I'm longing to see you. I want to know what you've been doing over yonder. Meaning, you know, I'm going to catch this flight because I'm on a plane and it's the airport thing. And when I reach my destination, I hope you'll be smiling. Thought you dropped me a line just to say, hello, my dear, I'm doing fine. But it doesn't matter anyway now, because my love for you will remain the same still. And no matter what people want, so when push come to shove, I wanted to find a line, a punchline that people would resonate with. And I remember old people always talk about, boy, when push come to shove, massa, whatever. And so I thought that line would resonate with people. And so I chose to use that line. When push come to shove, everybody want to put the blame on me. And sure enough, everybody picked up on it and it just took off.
When did you learn you cannot be dependent on just income from music? When did that click and say you got to venture into this stuff?
Well, when you're in music and if you're dedicated to it full time, the only thing you have is the music. So you have to tell yourself that everything you're going to become and whatever you're going to have and earn and own, it's going to come from this. So you have to give your full dedication to this. And at no time did I have a job outside of music, because I knew this was my calling. So I just make sure to dedicate my life and everything to it. But as you go on, then you realize that you need to try and broaden your horizon. I grew up loving farming. From I was going to primary school, you know, we used to plant seeds in a jar, watch them grow. That thing fascinated me. And I grew up, every chance I get, every square of a land space, I use it to try and plant something. And that's how I got into farming. I always wanted to do it, but never had the land space and all of that. So eventually I acquired some land through the government and decided to start a farm. And man, we've done so much with that farm. We've grown so much fruits, vegetables, pumpkin, plantains, banana, color, you name it.
And where are you exporting it or you selling it?
Well, we sold them in Jamaica. Some was sold for export, not by me, but people buy them and export them. And of course, we give away a lot of stuff because when you have farm, you can't devour everything. You automatically have to give to people, and that is something I love as well. So it worked out perfect for me. And I'm into breeding as well, horse breeding. So part of our farm is breeding horses.
How did you get into horse breeding?
Well, I've always loved racing. Racing, fishing is two things I've loved very, very much. In Florida, I go fishing a lot. Because as a youth growing up in Clarendon, fishing was our thing. And as I grew older, I realized how much more I loved it. And so we continue to do that. But then racing is something I had owned a horse maybe about 30 years ago too, called Spectacular Spin. She was a fast mare.
How did you get your first horse?
I purchased that horse. I don't remember how I purchased the horse, but I purchased that horse. It was just a love for the game racing. And since then, I haven't stopped. I've bred so many horses since then, and I've won quite a number of races too. And even here in the US, I do breeding in Ocala as well. I have some horses in Ocala. And I have young horses now too, and my mares are in full. It's just something I love very much. And I'm just hoping I'll get lucky enough to get a Derby winner one day.
How does the horsing game work? Like, how do you find a jockey?
There are jockeys. There's a colony of jockeys, and there's champion jockey, there is runner-up champion jockeys. They are just good jockeys. So you know the good ones, and your trainer knows the good one. Every horse takes a different kind of ride. And so you have to choose the jockey who will give your horse the kind of ride you know your horse will need to win this race. In fact, one of my horses raced yesterday, Saturday, before the concert, and he came second. I thought we would have won the race, but we got blocked by the horse who ended up winning the race. They should have taken him down, but there was an inquiry, and so they allowed the decision to stay. But I ran second. I should have won that race, and everybody knew that our horse would have won hadn't he been blocked. But yes, we'll reprogram and come again. And next time, I know we're going to win.
How hard has it been dealing with the passing of Dalton?
Very hard. That's one sore question that I always... Yeah, it's really hard when you're friends with someone for so many years. Because from 1971, Dalton and I...
How did the relationship start with this man playing? Even playing with you is pretty rare.
There was a band called Generation Gap. And the drummer, who is Horsemouth Wallace, Leroy Wallace. We all used to work together at Studio One, yeah? So we know each other. And some brethren was forming a band called Generation Gap. And they needed a vocalist. And they also needed a guitar player. And Horsemouth, I was his favorite singer at the time, because Horsemouth played on a lot of songs, drum-wise for me at Studio One too. And Horsemouth said, yeah, man, we have a little brethren, man, we can do that job here, we can sing. And we have a guitarist too, wicked. So Horsemouth linked up with Dalton, and Dalton went with them, with the rest of the guys for an audition. And it was more of a rehearsal, but you know, they wanted to see what we had and all of that. And then Horsemouth came and checked me. We were living at Delacree Lane at the time in the hood, real ghetto of Spanish Town Road. And Horsemouth, and then at the time nothing was happening really. And Horsemouth, little kids on the street come and check me and say, Freddie, a man out there in a van to you. And kind of get up and get my composure and walked out on the veranda and look. Lo and behold, it was Horsemouth. Excited as always, you know. Want me singer? You me come find me, I'm a ghetto singer, you know. Some uptown youth at farm a band and them want a singer. You don't know, you're my singer, you know. And I say, yeah? And I say, yeah, man, them want you come and want audition, you know, because we have a rehearsal. And I say, all right, well, I'm going to put on my clothes and run go change my clothes and jump in the vehicle with him. And we went up to Patrick City and saw this set of youth up there. You know. There were some, like what we call uptown kids from, you know, good family and lived in a upper class community and stuff. But that wasn't any kind of deterrent, you know. It was just brethren just the same. And those brethren finally became members of the 12 tribes of Israel because I influenced every single one of them to be a part of this movement because we had gotten close over time. And so I went and, you know, we started playing some songs. Them I play songs that them know, and like some stylistics, some blue magic, some spinners. You know, just a browse around and, you know, I managed to sing them because those were some of my favorite songs too. Some of which I had already recorded at Studio One too. And so everybody was kind of excited, you know. I look around by each other and I said, "What? Yeah, man, and nice." So them accepted me as a lead singer. I remember them gave me $12 at the time to buy some records.
And this band, was this supposed to be hotel runs or they were going to record?
No, it was a recording band. It was a dance and show band. Performing at hotels, graduation balls, and just about anything music-wise. And we got together and the band was established. And we became one of the top band in Jamaica as Generation Gap Band. And the fun part about it is Arsmouth, who had me become the vocalist of that band. One night, we played in a place called Black River, St. Elizabeth. It was a New Year's Eve concert. And so we played an early set, took a break, and we were to come back about 11:30 to play until midnight to bring in the new year, which is a tradition. But this time, Leroy Wallace met some fisherman on the beach, and he wanted to draw weed and never had any weed. So Leroy took the boat with the fisherman, went to Savannah Lamar, which was about, I'd say about 40 minutes driving. By boat, I'm not sure how long it took them. But they took him there to get some weed and come back. By this time, people started to clap because they wanted the band because it was getting close to midnight to ring in the new year. We were confused, not knowing what to do. We searched for Arsmouth, we can't find him. And we went up on the beach and them said, "Who you look for?" The man who played the drum, and we say, "Yeah." He said, "I'm going with crew them, down to Savlamar, them going to look weed for come back." So a decision had to be taken right there. What we're going to do? And them said, "Freddie, you think you can hold the tempo of the song them?" Well, I don't know if I could have hold the tempo because me just sing the song them at night time. And I mean, I know the song them, but never tell myself I could have probably even challenged that. But it was a situation where we never had any choice. And I remember Bugs, the band leader, put a boom stand mic in front of me. And around the drum set now. So yes, so them said, "Boy, just see if you can hold the tempo them." And we sure started off. And it started to work fairly well. And I find me I sing and I play the song them too. First time. I mean, I used to fool around at Studio One. Because every time the musicians take a break, you go bang Jackie piano for a little, and you go on the drum set. And because you watch them every day I do it. It's like learning to drive a car. You watch them change the gear and sink the clutch. And you tell yourself, say, "Yeah, man, we can do that too." And you fool around. So that night was a real test. And I was able to do it. And they fired Arsmouth after that. And for the next couple of months, and me, I played drum and I sing. Until it kind of became overwhelming for me, and I wanted to get back out front and do what I'm doing. And then we eventually got another drummer, and then the group continued. And that's where I met Dalton Browning. That's how I met Dalton. And when Generation Gap Band broke up, I promised Dalton that Dalton, as long as we there, we're going to always work together. Anything may I do, you're going to be a part of it.
About the original connection?
Well, I mean, with the band, when we linked up and started out with the Generation Gap Band, Dalton and I, we had an instant connection because musically we think alike. We love the same kind of music, and Dalton is a genius. I can tell you, genius. So, you know, we got really tight, really tight, and we started to bond as brothers. You know, and then when the band broke up, I said to him, "Well, Dalton, anything may I do, it's both of us." And from that time, we never looked back, and we never left each other from 1975 until 2 years ago. So, you know, that's really deep. He was my musical director, my brother, my everything. So that was really tough. But still trying to get over it. Not fully yet, but
Did you question? All right. So when it happened, did you question about easing off music a little bit before?
well, as a matter of
At least
fact,
live performance.
well, I can tell her no, because I couldn't, because we still had a whole of bookings, and so we had to fulfill commitments. And what I did take a break from was recording. I still do. I have an album coming out in the UK, produced by my cousins, called A Breath of Fresh Air. But that was as a result of recording songs every time I'm in London. We go to the studio and we record. So the other day we decided to listen back to some of the stuff that we've recorded and say we should put an album out. We have more than enough tracks. And while listening to the tracks, someone shouted out, well, so them tune has A Breath of Fresh Air. And everybody just looked at each other and say, so we should have named the album A Breath of Fresh Air, and that's it. So that album it's being prepared now to come out over this summer. But we started the album with Dalton before he passed. I recorded 12 tracks at Mixing Lab, and we started to do overdubs and stuff at my studio. But then Dalton passed, and since his passing, to be honest with you, I don't get the feel in my gut, to go back to it yet. But that album is going to be completed. That will be my album for 2023. Yeah.
And how was the first?
And that album, I'm dedicating that album to Dalton.
I lost my best friend, right?
Wow.
And like, how was the performance the first time with him not being there?
Sickening. I don't like talk about it. Sickening. I was looking around and not seeing him. Big problem.
And like, how was it? The band tough still, right? The band tough. Because you brought in. That's the first you brought in. You brought in somebody first before you brought in this person.
No. This group, no man, me and them right them work. We've been working together for years, including Dalton as well. So we pretty much have that bond. Musically, we know what's going on. So it was an easy transition, really. It's just that Dalton is not here, but everyone else, like you see, the group were tight and together, so.
And I noticed you use a lot of family
Well,
on tour.
well, Shima is a professional singer. She's the daughter of Sister Judy Mowat, and she has her own thing. Chino, my son, Chino has a beautiful album coming up. Him and Stephen. There's a track that they have with him, Stephen, they are brothers, my two sons, Junior Gang, Steve Marley. Wicked song. It's called Brother to Brother. I'm talking about how brothers live with brothers and stuff.
So you have two sons, right?
Yeah, three sons. I have three sons. Stephen, Chino, and Micah.
Michael's in music.
Micah is he's not involved with music.
I was gonna say it.
So it's just Stephen and Chino. Stephen is a producer.
Because it's almost like you have two sons playing in the league. Like you played in the NBA, you have two sons.
Yeah.
How did it work out that you have two sons performing on 6 nights?
Well,
Chino could perform for you. That's the thing.
Oh yeah, Chino tough man. Chino unfortunately never got the chance to do a half of his set last night. But with time constraint, we understand, he understand. But no man, Chino's a tough performer. Right now Chino has developed into a monster of a performer. The rest of the world just don't get it yet. But he's coming through, album is coming and everything is coming. So this is kind of like preparation for that time. Stephen, in fact, Chino is the one who brought Stephen to the music. Chino is responsible for Stephen's success. Push him on, from kids. And they grew up on, and luckily for me again, the vision worked. Because like I say, when I built my studio, I thought, if my kids grow up and love it, we have it. And as a matter of fact, we'll be able to help some other people. So all those things work out for me. And when I look at Steve now, and 5 Grammys, I'm like, damn, all these things that I didn't get, they got it. Chino has a Grammy, because he wrote a song on the Junior Gang album that gave him a Grammy too. So I'm just looking at them and just see myself achieving what I personally didn't achieve throughout my early career. And it's a blessing just to see him, because it's me same way. It's them, but it's me.